Yo, you're watching the Screaming Fish here, people, and once again, I'm here for another movie review, but this time we're taking a look at Disney's third attempt at bringing one of their cartoons to a live-action storyline. Well, I guess it probably count for fourth, if you count Maleficent, but I think Cinderella was really the start of the trend, seeing as how that was good, so was Jungle Book, and so is this film as well. So, without further ado, let's get into the review. Mr. Mecham, I think I'm pronouncing that right, is a woodcarver who delights local children with stories of a mysterious dragon that lives deep in the woods of the Pacific Northwest. His daughter, Grace, played by Bryce Dallas Howard, believes these are just all tales until she meets Pete, a 10-year-old orphan who says he lives in the woods with a giant friendly dragon. With help from a young girl named Natalie, Grace sets out to investigate if this fantastic claim can be true. So Pete's Dragon continues Disney's live-action success with yet another successful outing that not only delivers a thought-provoking message about cutting down trees. Seriously, cutting down trees, it's bad, it's not cool. It also delivers a compelling story with great performances and incredible CGI. However, I still have quite a few issues with this movie, but yeah, we'll get into those as the video goes along. So yeah, I don't think this is an amazing movie. It's out of this one, between Jungle Book and this one, I'd easily pick Jungle Book. I mean, this one isn't like great. It's good, but it's not great. That's how I see it. So, yeah. Oaks Fagley, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize if I'm not. As the main lead, Pete, similar to Neil Sethi as Jungle Book, is incredible. His performance did not fall flat at all. For a kid, he really did bring a sense of realism to a kid who was raised by a flipping dragon. I would even say he gave a slightly better performance than Neil Sethi did in Jungle Book. Not to say that Neil Sethi was bad, he wasn't. His performance was brilliant. He was brilliant in the role as Mowgli. However, I must admit, while the performance is phenomenal, I didn't find him as compelling as Mowgli from the Jungle Book. Yes, he was an interesting character and his performance is incredible. He just didn't grab my attention the way Mowgli did in Jungle Book. Bryce Dallas Howard as Grace, a nature-loving park ranger, is also in this, and I did like her character, and her character was also interesting. I enjoyed the idea of her developing a mother and son relationship with Pete, but unfortunately, I didn't think the film spent enough time developing that aspect of the film, and it ends up feeling rushed and a bit shoehorned in whenever it was brought up, which didn't happen that much, and it ended up feeling out of place. At least that's what I felt. Another cast member that I personally felt should have been more developed was Robert Redford as Grace's father. I forgot his name. His performance, as usual, is brilliant, and I liked his connection with the dragon. I really liked that aspect of the film, but unfortunately, that seemed to be all he was there for. Well, that and being a father figure to Grace. What I mean is that the only reason he seemed to be in the movie was to develop the backstory of the dragon some more. And the typical "I've seen something and nobody believes me" plot point that I'm honestly sick and tired of seeing in film. I mean, honestly, I've seen this done in so many other movies and TV shows that I'm now at the point where whenever I see this particular plot point used in a newly released film such as this one, I just think to myself, how unoriginal. That's how sick and tired I am of that particular plot point being used all the time. And yes, I enjoyed his performance for the most part, and I liked his character. It just felt like that that's all his character was meant for, which really annoys me. Wes Bentley was also really good in this, but his character is given almost no development, and the love story between him and Grace just felt forced. And wait, when did this happen? It just didn't really work for me, and I can't really give an opinion on his character because he wasn't given any proper development. In fact, almost no development at all. Carl Urban was actually really good in this movie, and I found his character to be the more interesting than any of the other characters in this movie. And I liked how he thought the dragon was dangerous and wanted to capture it. That was a really good plot point for the most part, but then near the film's climax, it's just thrown out of the window like it was just non-existent. This again peeved me off a bit. So now for the dragon, and oh my god, the dragon is phenomenal. Like Jungle Book, the CGI is incredible. It looks real and in almost every scene. And while the dragon has no voice actor, the chemistry between Pete and Elliot, that the dragon is there, and that's a thing I really like about the movie. The chemistry between Pete and Elliot, it's fleshed out brilliantly well, and it works perfectly. I would even say that the relationship between Pete and Elliot is by far the best part of this movie. The dragon itself is a great character in this movie, in his own right. Like I said, he has no voice actor, but even then, the dragon itself is surprisingly compelling. The whole idea of the dragon being forced out of the hiding and having to fight for his life from the humans is a really interesting story arc, and I feel that the writers really took their time to develop that part of the story. I also found the scene where Elliot is separated from Pete after being found by Grace is a particularly strong plot point, which really helped develop the relationship between Elliot and Pete, and also introduce some friction between the two when Pete is seen having a lovely time with his new friends. Unfortunately, it's just dropped within a few minutes to set up another plot point, which didn't bother me too much because the plot point that I was setting up was actually a little more interesting than that. So, yeah. Unfortunately, another issue I had with this movie is that there were a couple of scenes where the dragon would be standing over a group of people, and that group of people wouldn't notice them, and I was kind of thinking, how are you not noticing this? How are you not noticing the dragon? It's not even invisible. How are you not even seeing? How has nobody noticed it yet? But it didn't bother me that much because it only happened like once or twice in the movie, so yeah. So yeah, the CGI is in this movie, it's incredible. Like Jungle Book, it just looks almost photorealistic. There's a shot of the dragon flying into the sunset, and it looked beautiful. The dragon's facial expressions were on point, and his movement was also realistic. I honestly haven't seen CGI this good since the Jungle Book, and I'd say it's just as good, if not better. It looks so realistic. I must admit, though, I didn't like the ending of this movie. I do appreciate happy endings, and I have nothing against them. It's just that this one went a little too far with the happy ending part of it. And like I said, I have nothing against happy endings, but I would have been fine with Pete now lives with a real family, and Elliot has to go and live on his own, and I would have been okay with that. But then it turns out there's a whole family of dragons, and it just felt really out of place, and where did that come from? Like, where did this whole family of dragons idea come from? It just felt really shoehorned in. I would have much preferred to see that in a sequel, but revealing it right at the end of the movie just feels really forced and out of place. But yeah, that's what I thought at least. So I do think the film has a very strong story for the most part. I think the film's choices with certain characters and the way they're developed just did not work, and I ended up thinking, why are some of these characters even here if they're only here to set up the dragon's eventual reveal to the world? Overall, though, it was a solid but flawed movie in my opinion. It gets props for its mostly engaging story and great performances and terrific CGI, but characters aren't in the mix of pros for this movie. In fact, there were also a few plot holes that I found in there, and that didn't really make sense. And there were a couple of scenes, like I said earlier, where I was like, how are you not noticing the dragon? It's right behind you. And yeah. So guys, thank you for watching my review of Pete's Dragon, I don't think it's an amazing film. It's good. It's got a very strong story, but its characters are just really... I think it just really fails with its characters, unfortunately. But on the whole, I thought it was a solid but flawed movie, like I said earlier. So, thank you for watching this, guys. I do hope you enjoyed it, and I will indeed see you in the next one. Goodbye, guys.